from my own kind of background, I would frame it in terms of kind of challenges and challenges for both the Arctic and the Antarctica. For both regions, I would say that the climate change is clearly the number one threat. I mean, real threat, not anything that we humans have constructed. So, and I would say that it would be important to kind of both kind of regimes to really look into that and tackle that. And in the Arctic, we have gone forward in that respect. Second would be in the Arctic, we had just recently a foreign ministers meeting, and the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from the United States was airing out his concerns towards China and Russia in terms of their military behavior in the Arctic. So this geostrategic competition is becoming a kind of concern in the Arctic region, and we are seeing some signs, unfortunately, that it's undermining some of the kind of very long-term kind of peaceful international cooperation, very productive cooperation between the 8 Arctic states. So that's a challenge that I see, and I hope that it will fade away. The third challenge, I would say that I think we cannot avoid this. I mean, China is a great power by now. So we have the same discourse in both polar regions. So we have the discussion about how China is challenging the Antarctic Treaty System, how its presence in the region is on the increase, how it is doing too much, it's overfishing, etc. in the Southern Ocean. But also in the Arctic, there is concern about its economic investments and perhaps some dual scientific activities that may have a military component. So in the Arctic, that's I would say that China's role is still fairly kind of meager, more so in the Antarctica. But I guess that one thing is sure, that China's role will get stronger from year to year. So that's something that both polar regions have to deal with one way or the other. I would suggest that we have to be kind of both kind of be alert in terms of whatever investments Chinese do, kind of be aware that there are possible consequences, and some of those may be evil, but also not be overly alarmistic, and that you can do actually good cooperation with China. I think that, for instance, the last foreign ministers meeting of the Arctic Council was very difficult. It was U.S. delegation basically making it impossible for the Arctic Council, first time ever, to adopt a signed declaration, because they were totally against even naming climate change in the declaration. So what we learned from there was that the Antarctic Treaty System, which is working in a way that there are civil servants and diplomats basically working around the Antarctic issues, and many years we have been thinking that perhaps it would be good to have a kind of political level of decision making to kind of give more push for the regime to kind of tackle the emerging challenges, whether it's tourism, bioprospecting, fisheries. So there are many issues in the Antarctic that remain unresolved. But now I think that many are also asking, and me included, whether it's actually now good at this day and age to have this kind of civil servant-driven regime that is not so kind of susceptible to kind of demands from the higher levels of government. I think one thing is climate change in terms of how it is dealt with, and I think that there's lots that the Antarctic Treaty System could learn from the Arctic Council. That it actually has done a lot of science catalyzing Arctic science on climate change. There are adaptation projects on how to adapt to the dramatic consequences of climate change in the region, but also some climate mitigation work. So this all is kind of not there for the Antarctic Treaty System, which I think is something that the Antarctic Treaty System should be doing at some point in the future. And in terms of the institutions, Arctic Council and the Antarctic Treaty System, I would really heavily be kind of encouraging both regimes to engage China. So this is not altogether clear that China will be part of these regimes forever, especially now in the Arctic Council. They are observers, but there is some heavy kind of rhetoric at the very least from the part of the US that they would not like to see China anymore appearing in the Antarctic, less so, but it is also that they are portrayed as a possible kind of party that is not anymore playing by the rules. So the suggestion here is to really engage the Chinese more into the workings of the regime and keep them there. I think one thing is that natural sciences they have been basically they are doing their research in both poles and that's quite natural and in terms of social science research, international relations, international law, various other disciplines, there are not that much collaboration simply because of the differences between the two poles in terms of the policy laws available there. But I would say that there are lots of also interesting lessons to be learned and to create kind of multilateral forums even between the states, and there are many states that are also parties to both institutions, to create multilateral forums to learn from this. There are several learning lessons from each other, but also academic forums. So we have had this polar law symposium for now. This was the 12th polar law symposium that we organized in Hobart, Tasmania, and these have been very useful. So we have been able to kind of go outside of our comfort zones in the Arctic and in the Antarctic and learn from each other. So this has been really beneficial. I think one other aspect would be for us, for instance, in the academia, to put some pressure on the funding agencies. They don't seem to be easily funding this sort of comparative research, and this is something that we as a social science research community can advance towards the funding agencies.